In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to prepare Azure to host the backend infrastructure for Azure File Sync. So I start off and I go into the Azure console. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a storage account. This storage account will store the special file share that Azure File Sync will back onto. So I specify my subscription, and what I'm doing first is I'm creating a resource group. Now it's important to remember to keep all of your resources in the same location in a resource group. So I've called this Learn File Sync RG. I give the storage account a name. The storage account name must be unique. So in this one, I'm calling it Extend CAD Files. I'm going to leave it in the central US location. And that's important to remember because all of my resources for this Azure File Sync instance should be kept in the same location. So if you're doing this for yourself, remember to choose a location that makes sense for you. I click Review and Create, and after it's validated my settings are correct, I can click Create and create that storage account. The deployment's underway and then the deployment is complete. Once the deployment's complete, I can go to the resource. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a file share within that storage account. So I click File Shares, I click New File Share, and I give the file share a name. I'm calling the file share CAD File Share, and here I'm setting a quota of 1 GB. Now, you might choose to configure a much larger quota because most people have file shares larger than 1 GB, but this is just a demonstration example of how to perform this task. I click Create. It creates the file share. So I now have a file share that's sitting in a storage account. Now that I've got a file share sitting in a storage account, I'm going to create the Azure File Sync service. So I type Azure File Sync and I click Create. I put it in the resource group that I already created, Learn File Sync RG. I provide a name for the storage sync service, CAD sync service, and I make sure that it's in the central US location. Remember, I want to keep it in the same location and in the same resource group as all of the other resources that are associated with this Azure File Sync deployment. I click Review and Create, and after it's validated, I click Create. The deployment occurs, and the deployment is successful. I can now go to the sync service. Once I have a sync service, I can create a sync group. A sync group is like one particular path that I want to replicate. So here I give the sync group a name, CAD files. I choose my storage account, and then from the storage account, I choose the file share. Now you can have multiple file shares associated with the storage account. So you might have one storage account and many different file shares, each file share associated with a different sync group. I click Create. It now creates the sync group. So I now have a sync group. The sync group is connected to an Azure file share, and that file share resides within a storage account. My Azure deployment is now ready for me to proceed with the next step that you'll see in the next demonstration.